Welcome everyone to this week's lectures online session on English teaching. Today's focus is going to be on how to teach vocabulary, and it is very much linked to what you learned in the first year in EP1, but we're going to step it up a notch. We're going to take it up a notch, get into it more, talk about more details and more things that you can do to help your students fully grasp those words, right? And those phrases and those grammar points. So the first thing you need to do when you are considering your lesson, what words you're going to teach, everything like that, make sure you have a clear goal. Make sure you have a clear objective. So what you need to be asking yourself at the beginning of your preparation for your lesson are these kinds of questions. What is the purpose of the class? What is the goal of the class? What will the students learn from my lesson? How can I best achieve the objective? Really good questions to ask yourself at the beginning of your planning for the lesson, right? Now, to be honest with you, if you're a teacher, you're going to get something like this called a teacher's book, right? A teacher's booklet or a teacher's guide, a teacher's pack. And it has, for every lesson, for example, here, let's go shopping, unit 3. It has suggestions for activities, warm up, everything. So you basically have it already here. If you're working from a textbook, you already have the objective set out for you. You already have the types of activities. You've got lots of that. However, in real life, your students may not always be at the same level as the book that you've been assigned to, and they may also be above the book. The book may be too easy. So always be prepared to know how to pick your own objectives, how to write them down, and also it's really good practice for your micro teaching. So for example, if we're doing the lesson about where are you from, my objective would be for students to ask and answer the question, where are you from? I am from blah blah. That's my objective. So everything I do in the class has to help my students achieve that objective. So the types of activities I choose, how can they help them to achieve that objective? So maybe I'll choose a speaking activity, a dialogue where they can ask each other. Maybe I'll have to give them different cards so that they practice saying they are from different countries, because hey, we live in Korea and most people are Korean. So I need to also think about that aspect, right? How are they going to learn about other countries? Things like that. So now, teaching vocabulary. And this applies to all lessons. Whenever you're teaching anything, you need to think about what words do they need to learn in order for them to be able to do this lesson. So I have a little method that I like to use. It's a little 4-step method, and my overall lesson planning theme or name or type, I use the hook, book, look, and took. Okay, so this is also a 4-step. Maybe I just like 4-step everything, right? So you got the hook, book, look, took. And the step that we're talking about today is the book, which is can be also referred to as the pre-teaching, right? So it's book, pre-teaching. And it's the part of the class where you introduce new information, you practice the language that the students need in order to go on to the activities and the rest of the class. So it's really a huge part for the teacher. You need to prepare lots of different things because you are introducing new information to them. So how can you do that? Well, I have another 4-step method. Number 1 is you elicit it, right? You bring it out of the students. Number 2 is you gesture it. You give it an action. Number 3 is you repeat it. You say it again. And this is where this is where you're going to help your students get that correct pronunciation of the word, or at least try to. And then step 4 is CCQs. So this is where you check to see if the students actually understand what the word means, right? So let's get into it. Number one, elicit it, right? This is where you introduce the word. Now, I'm going to be repeating myself a lot because, to be honest with you, I see it all the time. A lot of students, they put all their energy, when it comes to the book part of the lesson, they put all their energy on step one, introducing the word, all right? So they'll have like this, maybe they'll do a mime or they'll get a flashcard and they'll do so much work on the flashcard and be like, what is this? Bakery, yay, good. And they're like, let's do the activity. Well, you need to do a lot more than that. So number one, you need to elicit it, get it from your students. Why? For two main reasons. Number one, to avoid lecturing to the students, to avoid doing this. And this is what I see a lot of the times student teachers do. This is bakery. Bakery, we buy bread.
Bonjour, high spaghetti are bakeries. Do you like bakeries? I like bakeries. I like bread. And I like cupcakes too. I like bread with the cream inside. And I like the croissant as well. Is there a bakery near your house? There's a bakery near my house. My
bakery has a lot of bread. The students do not need all of that information, right? It's unnecessary. At this level, all you're trying to get the students to do is to know this is bakery. This is how you spell bakery. This is how you pronounce bakery. In bakery, there's bread. Done. So if you feel like you want to explain the word, limit it to one sentence only. If you start to add many sentences, you're starting to lecture, and that is a no-go zone, right? We're avoiding lecturing, right? You can be lectured to because you are adults, you're university students, and you have quite a good understanding of English. But your kids do not need to be lectured to. Instead, try and engage them, which is reason number two. Your students, if they are in Korea, most of them go to hagwons. So most of them will already be learning a ton of vocabulary. Even if they don't go to hagwon, they watch the show or they could have come across the word before. So instead of telling them the word, instead of giving them lots of explanations, ask them, find out from them, right? And you don't always have to use what's this. So a lot of the times, most people use a flashcard and maybe a short question like what's this? But that's not the only way that you can find out if the student knows a word. What other ways that are engaging and fun that you can use in your class to get your students to tell you what the word is? Well, you can. And this is not an exclusive list. There are tons more, but this is just some little advice that I can give. Number one, mime it, right? You can show it. So if I was doing the word bakery, maybe I would have or right? Until somebody says bread, cake, and I'm like, yeah. Play that game with them, play charades with them until they tell you what the word is. Number two, you can use flashcards, pictures, drawing. That always works. That's always a safe one. Number three, you can do lists or brainstorm. So you can say to them, what kind of bread do you like? Draw a picture of your favorite bread or cake. And then say to them, where can you find this? Inside a bakery. Now, different techniques work for different types of words. For example, for the word bakery, drawing flashcards would definitely work. Miming would definitely work. Another thing that would definitely work as well is giving your students hints, right? You can say, you can find cakes in here. You can find, what else do you have? You can find bread in here. You can find, one of the names is called Paris baguette. You can give them all of these hints until they say the word bakery. All right. Now, other types of eliciting techniques are using synonyms. So saying words that are similar to the word that you're looking for. So I have one example here on my PPT, which is a cheetah is fast. What is another word for fast? and hopefully the students will answer back with quick eventually. So that is another way that you can get them to think about the word and tell you what the word is without telling it to them. You can also use antonyms. So for example, here I have the word outgoing. So I can tell my students, this is the word that you want. So this is how you can get them to tell you the word that you want. You can say, I'm not shy, but I'm hey, how you doing? All right, I'm not shy. Me? No, I'm not shy. I'm yeah. And maybe they would say funny, fun. They can say a whole lot of things. I think outgoing is a little bit of a difficult word, but at least they will start to, engage with you. And then if they don't know the words, then you can tell them, right? It also works with emotions. For example, I can say, I'm not sad, but I'm and they can tell you happy, right? So use synonyms with those kind of easy opposite words like run, walk, jog, swim. I don't know. You can use it with certain words that have clear opposites. There are tons more of examples. Another type, when you're talking about maybe the past, the future, I like to use timelines. So I like to show the students a timeline: yesterday, today, tomorrow. And then I can easily talk about, past tense and future tense and present tense using a timeline. So when you are introducing your word, when you are eliciting your word, think about which technique best suits that category of words. Which technique would easily engage the students and have them thinking. Recently, I got to, come across rebus puzzles, and they work really well for compound nouns. So two words that are brought together. For example, you have swordfish. So you can show your students a picture of sword plus fish. What word is it? Swordfish. So instead of just telling them the word, try and get them to engage and tell you what the word is. It's a lot more fun for the students and they learn a lot more. So that is step 1, introducing the word. Step number 2 is all about gesturing it. And this step is a step that so many students skip out and they get a lower mark in my presentations because they just forget about gesturing the word. Every word that you teach, for example, I've got here the word Vietnam. Every word that you teach have some actions and gestures to it. So I know this will be a hard word to do. So usually I ask the students, if it's not an easy thing to do, for example, mittens, it's easy to do mittens, right? We can just do like this, mittens, right? We can mimic mittens. But what if you can't mimic it? Ask a student, hey Junhyuk, what gesture can we have to this? Maybe Junhyuk goes like this. So we do it, Vietnam. It's really good for their memory, and also it engages them in the class. It makes them a part of the learning rather than just spectators who watch you do everything. So make sure you have gestures. Try to keep the gestures simple, not complicated, really nice and simple. Another thing that I like to do is if I ask the student for a gesture and they are hesitating, or maybe they are thinking and they don't know, I use that as well. Like maybe a student is going, I say, Junhyuk, give me a gesture for Vietnam. Maybe they're there and they're like, So I'm like, okay, let's go with it. Vietnam. Most times it gets a good giggle. Everybody laughs and we all have a good time. So don't worry, even if the student doesn't come up with a gesture, use their hesitation as a gesture. Okay, the next thing that you need to think about is repeat it. That is step number 3. And repeat it is specifically, I look at it as the step where you're going to do the pronunciation part. So let's take a look at this word, Vietnam. I always ask the students, how many claps does the word Vietnam have? So I explain it. How many times can I clap to the word Vietnam? Is it 1? Is it 2? Is it 3, 4, 5? Let's see. Is it Vietnam? Vietnam? Or is it Vietnam? How many times can I clap it? right? And we do that and we figure it out. Usually there's one student who's really good at it and tells me 2. Great, right? So write it down. If you don't have it on your flashcard, on your board, or if you're teaching from home, write it on your little board like I'm doing right now. Vietnam. And mark where the syllable is split. So the clap is basically referring to how many syllables the word has. So a little bit like this, Vietnam. And then I'm gonna ask the student, which clap is louder? Is it Vietnam, Vietnam, or Vietnam? Which one is louder? Vietnam or Vietnam? Which one is louder? And hopefully somebody would say Vietnam. Great. So then I put the circle. I turn it like this. All right, great. So you got your students thinking about pronunciation, thinking about where the stress is. And if you keep doing that, it would really help the students to become aware of how to, first of all, correctly pronounce the word and of the rhythm of English as well. You can go a step further by getting yourself a kazoo, a little kazoo, or the piano. You musical people will know better, but this is where you can teach them intonation, right? The pitch. So I will say the word Vietnam, and the students can repeat and try to follow that rhythm. It works really well with sentences. So say I want to say the sentence, I'm from Vietnam. So let me say it. Can you hear it? I'm from Vietnam. Good. Actually, doing that, I can hear nam as the correct word. So what you can then do, if you're unsure, use a dictionary. So I have a nice dictionary here, and I can double check. Because sometimes, even me too, I'm unsure where exactly the stress is. It's not a problem. This week, I had a student say to me, I was spelling the word pretzel, and I couldn't spell the word pretzel. And the students say, teacher, you too don't know how to spell? I'm like, yeah, sometimes I don't know how to spell. It's okay, kid. I was totally okay with, not knowing how to spell. Because sometimes it happens, stuff happens. And be comfortable with the students. You don't always have to show them everything. Okay, so here you go. I can see from the dictionary that actually the correct way is Vietnam. So I was wrong. So change it up. Change it up. Vietnam. Great. So we've got it now. The stress is on the second syllable. Vietnam. So it's really, really important. If you don't know the stress of something, check it in your dictionary, and then you start to hear it. Another reason why you should have a good dictionary is because a student of mine this week in EP1 said to me, teacher, how do I know how many syllables there are? Because I pronounce everything in a Korean way. For example, street, I know it as street, or I know certain words in the Korean way. So how do I know? Well, get yourself a dictionary. Even as a native speaker, I know syllables and I know stress, but it's not like I've learned it and I completely know it very well. So getting a good dictionary will save you a lot of time and embarrassment as well. So there you go, Vietnam. Now, what else can you do? Do you stop there and call it a day? No, you can go further up, right? You can go even more into detail. You can do a chant. Now, I have a simple chant here, and it's basically using vocabulary words with 2 syllables, 3 syllables, and 1 syllable. So this is how it goes. So keeping with the same theme of where are you from, I'm going to teach a chant that goes like this. Brazil, Australia, France. Brazil, Australia, France. Brazil, Australia, Brazil, Australia, Brazil, Australia, France. I have another example of this chant in a different way, and it is asking the students, what do you want to be? Pilot, firefighter, nurse. Pilot, firefighter, nurse. a pilot, firefighter, pilot, firefighter, pilot, firefighter, nurse. If you do it in this way, guarantee the students will remember the words quite well. Lastly, get your students on a fresh piece of paper to write down the word in the same in the same way that you had it as well. Get them to write it on a piece of paper and keep it, and maybe they can have a little bag, for example, a little bag like this one, and they can put their flashcards or their vocabulary cards in the little bag, and anytime you want to review a topic or you want them just to play a matching game, they've got tons of vocabulary words inside of there, right? That's another way you can make your students more engaged in your class. Okay, so that's step 3. The last step is one of the most important steps, and it, again, just like gestures, it's a step that I don't usually see students doing. They skip it. So the last step is ask CCQs, concept check questions. Most of the time I hear students asking this question:
do you understand?
But I don't know if you've been told before, that is not a good question to ask, because you don't always get a truthful answer. I've never seen a student who's like,
Yeah, I don't understand. You know, in fact, I don't get anything that you're saying. Could you go over that again?
you know, students want to finish the class. They want to be over and done with. So you're not always going to get a truthful answer if you say, do you understand? And many times I say, do you understand? And everybody's like, yes. And then we start doing the activity and then they're like, oh, teacher, I don't understand, right? So instead of doing that, instead of asking, do you understand? Ask short answer questions or yes and no style questions. So let's see some examples. Is Vietnam hot? Well, yes, it is, right? It's you know, tropical for most of the year. Where is Vietnam? Asia, Europe, America? Hopefully one of them will say Asia. Or if you think that's too hard, you can say, is Vietnam next to England or Thailand? You know, again, you definitely will get a student who has an idea of where Vietnam is. What color is the Vietnam flag? Now, when we were learning it, if we did the flashcard, I would definitely introduce the flag. So somebody can say red and yellow. So those are questions that you can ask instead of asking the students, do you understand? Let's carry on. Let's see some more examples. Here I have the word banana. I can ask, can I eat a banana? Yes. Is a banana a vegetable? No, it's a fruit. Is a banana yellow? Yes. How about the word peel? Can I peel a carrot? Yes. Can I peel my hand? Oh no. Can I peel with a knife? Yes. All right. And how about the word clock? Can I eat a clock? No. But I'm sure you're gonna get one student that's like, yeah, you can. But it's usually the silly student. Does a clock have numbers? Yes, it does. Is a clock big? Hopefully you have a clock in your classroom and the students can look and say yes or no, depending on what they see, or they can take a guess. So all of those things are helpful things that you can do to help your students understand the word completely. Now, during your presentation, your practice presentation, you don't have time to do this kind of detail for everything. So that is why I just ask you to show me examples of 3 words, sometimes even 2, because I really want you to get the practice of doing this kind of teaching where you introduce the word, you gesture it, you repeat it, and then you ask CCQ questions on it as well. It takes a lot more time to teach this way, but it has really great benefits and it helps your students to become independent learners, which is what you want. You want your students to know how to do this without you. Another thing, if your school has dictionaries, for example, like this one, like get your students to find the word in the dictionary and tell you about it and tell you where is the stress, how do you say it, right? Make them more independent. I'm telling you, it's gonna help you. All right, now I wanted to do an example with 3 words here. So I have the word plant, and please note when I do teach stress, I teach with my hand. So big hand is loud stress, fist is de-stressed or unstressed sound. I'm gonna do a little demonstration with a little song on introducing vocabulary and also using real materials. I didn't talk about that, but that is another advantage you have when you're teaching at home. Use real materials if you can, if you have it in hand. So I hope that you enjoyed this lesson. I always try to make it short, but I talk a lot, all right? I'm sorry, I'm trying. Thank you very much for following today's lesson. I hope you enjoy it and I hope you learn a lot from it. All right, I will be setting a little task on CCQs and also on practicing what I've taught you here today. If you have any questions, please let me know. And also, as always, I really appreciate it if you press the like button to tell me that you liked it, and other people on YouTube, in the YouTube world, can watch it as well. And subscribe if you like my channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye. Australia, Brazil, France.